Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we take a look at something actually very new and very special from our good friends over at Tecware. This is the Tecware Pulse Elite Wireless Hot Swappable Switch eSports Gaming Mouse, which weighs in at around about 70 grams. This thing is very cool. There's lots of things I want to tell you about it, and we'll go through all the specs, features, and what is included in the accessories, of which I think you're going to be pretty much mind blown. This covers so many bases, it's absolutely ridiculous. But I think most people are going to get to the point where they think, well, Tecware, who are they? And I think that is possibly one of the biggest downsides of this particular mouse. On paper, specifications to use and the flexibility is fantastic and really does put it up there with the kind of the high-end competitors such as the Asus ROGs, the Vipers, Endgame Gear, all those kinds of things. Tecware isn't one of those brands you naturally associate with a premium gaming device, but in this particular instance, it definitely is. So in today's video, I'm going to go through, have a little bit of a teardown, talk about what the mouse is all about, and potentially this might be suitable for you for your next gaming purchase upgrade, and an upgrade it certainly might be, because this actually has a very cool feature which is very, very rarely found, especially in the mainstream market. So this actually has hot swappable micro switches. So when you look at your normal mouse, you have a left and a right click, and it's pretty much, that is what it is. Now, unless you're a serious modder, in which case you can take it all apart, get the soldering iron out, and you can replace switches potentially with ones that you might prefer. This actually takes away a lot of that hassle, making it a completely toolless design. So you can actually remove the micro switches which are included. There's actually two sets included. There's some Hurano ones and also some Kailh switches, and you can switch between the two to see which one suits your particular needs. Also, you can, if you want to, go over to places such as Amazon or AliExpress and just pick up the switches that you like, or maybe get a few different versions and go through them and maybe find one that you prefer. That is the flexibility of this mouse, which pretty much no other mouse on the planet comes with as standard. So this is pretty special. Something else it comes with, which is actually quite special and is only for us here in the UK and the European Union. This is actually a special version of the Tecware Pulse Elite. Now, if you're buying this abroad, such as in the US, you can find this model with either the honeycomb shell, and also you can get it with the smooth shell, and you can purchase it in either black or white separate editions. Whereas over in the UK, they've tried to simplify it a little bit. So we get the honeycomb shell, which is the lighter weight version, it's 70 grams, whereas the solid shell is about 75 grams. But with this, it's actually hot swappable as well. So you don't need any tools whatsoever, and you can actually exchange the top section, the shell, for the front and the rear with the included white version. So if you've got your setup and you've got your nice white PC, you've got your white keyboard, all that kind of stuff, then you can swap out the shell to suit your particular needs, which I think is very cool indeed. So with the ability to swap out the top shells and also swap out the switches, I think this is actually pretty special. So being that this is an unboxing, let's go through and take a look at the packaging and what we actually get inside before we go into the nitty gritty of the specs. So as you can see from the packaging, this is the Pulse Elite wireless gaming mouse, and it shows you on the front there the options for the white shell or the black shell, and also it highlights the fact that this is a 70 gram device, which is actually pretty lightweight. On the back of the box, it goes over the specifications and what is included in the box. So let's give you a close-up of that so you can have a quick read through. So some of the key features of this, one of which is the sensor itself. So this sensor in here is using the PixArt PM-W3370 sensor. This is what is known as a flawless sensor. And actually, if you're looking at other wireless mouse on the market, you may find that a lot of them tend to opt for the PAW3370 or variants of that, due to the fact that the PAW range actually has better battery life and is a lower powered version. With that, you don't actually get the flawless kind of badging on it. These are designed, the PM-W range, to be more really for wired mice. They do give superior accuracy and have all those cool features such as smoothing and angle snapping. So let's run through the specs of the PixArt sensor. So we're looking at 400 inches per second, 50G mouse acceleration, 19,000 DPI, of which is all fully adjustable. Also, we get the ability to adjust the lift-off distance between 1 to 2 mils, and also you get the option to change things such as your debounce times and also the polling rate, of which, as standard, this is in 1000 Hertz. So now let's take a look and see what we actually get included in the box. So obviously, you get the mouse itself with also the black shells, which are kind of pre-installed, and as you can see, those come off pretty easy, so they're magnetic when you want to change them, and then you can see actually inside, and this will give you the first look at the switches. So these are the stock switches which are included, and they're in the little capsules or carriers, which we'll take a look at shortly. Also included is, as you probably guessed, you get the white shell as well. So if you want to install the white shells, then you can do that. Just clips on and magnetic. So there you go. Suddenly you have a white mouse, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, you still get the black sides on there, so there's a nice matte finish on the sides where the buttons are, but I think it does change the look of the mouse entirely, especially if you want something to blend in more with your all-white setup. Also included, you get a power cord. So this is a 1.6 meter power cord cable. So this is USB Type A to USB Type C. This is for using the mouse wired or for charging the built-in 400 milliamp hour battery. A full charge takes somewhere in the region of about an hour, and in theory, with the power saving settings on, this can last up to about 50 hours without needing a new charge. You can, if you want to, just plug in the USB-C at any point you want, just to give it a few minutes charge, and that will generally last you a good day. Also included, Tecware have thought of everything, so if you want a Type A to Type C adapter, should you need one of those, that is included also. And there is a little Tecware USB receiver. It's very nice that it's got the Tecware logo on there, so in the world of dongles these days, you've got all these different dongles, you haven't got a clue what they're for, so it's nice that they've actually put their logo on there, so you know this is the one for your mouse. Also included, for those that you like to mod and take things apart, you do get an additional set of skates. So these are high quality PTFE Ultra Glide skates, and also there's an additional one for the sensor as well, so you want to use that. And there's some other little bits in there which I have no idea what they're for, but no doubt someone's going to tell me in the comments. And now let's look at the star of the show. So we've got these two little plastic carriers, and also we've got the Kailh KM 8.0 switches in there, which also come with the kit. So this is the hot swap nature of it. So if you want to swap them out, you can do. The switches, the button goes at the front where the lower bit is, and the back end has got a higher section, so you can tell which way around it goes actually in the mouse. And it's actually relatively straightforward to do. Normally, if you're going to swap out switches on your mouse, like I said earlier, you're going to have to go and get out things like your soldering iron, loads of screwdrivers and all that kind of stuff. Whereas with this, all you need to do is just push in the little tags, front and back, for the switch carrier, and you can pull the switch and the carrier out in one fell swoop, and then put in your replacement switches. And again, if you want to, you can have them both different, so you don't have to have them both the same. You can have different switches to suit your particular gaming style, or if you're someone like me, do video editing, maybe you want something a little bit more precise for your left click, and for your right click you're not particularly bothered. So yeah, you can mix and match these however you see fit. Taking the switches out is pretty simple. It's not the easiest if you've got slightly chubby fingers, but still it is possible. So we've taken out our previous switches there, so you can grab the other ones, and literally all you do is just put them in the carrier and push them into the mouse. And there we go. A lot easier than getting out a soldering iron and going through all that faff. I really do like this. I think this is actually a very wise move on Tecware's behalf, making things very straightforward, very simple. So now we've got our Kailh KM 8.0 switches in there. We'll put our black shell back on, make sure that everything's seated nicely, and we'll grab our black shell, and there we go. We've completely transformed our mouse in terms of switches, performance, and also color, and it took less than a couple of minutes. This is fantastic. So now let's take an overview of the mouse itself. So as you can see, in terms of shape, nice humped on the back. I like this. I am somewhat of a claw grip person, or palm grip, so it works really nicely for me. The dimensions of this, pretty compact actually, 125 mils in length, and you're looking around about 64 millimeters wide and about 40 millimeters in height. So yeah, nice and comfortable. It feels really nice in the hand actually, and is a ambidextrous shape. So whether you're a lefty or righty, you've got no problems there at all. Other buttons on here, so obviously you've got your left and right click buttons, you've got a mouse wheel. Now the mouse wheel is actually really nice, and I'm going to grab my other mouse a minute just so you can hear the difference between the quality of the mouse wheel on this and my other daily driver. So here is my normal daily driver. So this is the MSI Clutch GM41 wireless. Basically very similar in actual price and also the technology, although this uses the PAW sensor, so not quite the flawless one, so a little bit more twitchy than this one will be, but overall specifications, they're very similar indeed. But the one thing I do like is the fact, well, you can hear a little bit of rattle on that one already. There's a little bit there, not quite so much, but what I really do like is the mouse wheel. So scrolling with this one, that can get quite tedious. much, much better. So this is probably going to end up being my daily driver at some point. I really do like the mouse wheel. Very nice, very precise, and does exactly what you expect it to do. And also you've got a nice click on there as well, very responsive. Down below that we've got the DPI button. So the DPI button switches through up to 6 different DPI settings. They're all pre-configured at the factory, but you can go into the software and change them, which we'll take a look at very shortly. On the side, you've got the back and forward button, and also you've got a slightly more matte finish on the side than you do on the top. So nice little difference in detail there. And also there is the Tecware logo, very, very discreet on the side there. So if you didn't basically know it was a Tecware mouse, you'd have no idea. Really, it's quite a nice design, and it doesn't have any of that flashy stuff going on with branding, so I do like that. The only real branding as such on this section is actually from the LEDs. So if you take the back off, you can see there is a Tecware logo there, which does illuminate. But fortunately, when you've got the cover on, you can't really see it that much anyway. And if you go for the complete solid shell, which is available in other countries, then you can't see that whatsoever. I do think that the RGB shines through quite nicely, as you're probably seeing from some B-roll. At the moment, this is actually not going to turn on as such in terms of the RGB, because it won't until the actual receiver is plugged into a device. So it'll just turn on briefly, then turn off. Looking at the bottom, so we've got these really nice skates. Again, this is really good for maneuverability on regardless what surface it is. Really, if it's on a mouse mat, ideally, it does go very smoothly. So just skating across, very smooth indeed. They've really done a good job on that. Again, with something which they've upgraded in terms of what is available on my other mouse. So this one, the skates are okay, but I'd love for these to have been the same as that. I think that would have improved the mouse a lot. So this has considerably more drag. As you can see, it's an absolute night and day difference. So if you want it to be nice and smooth, ultra glide on your desktop, then this is the one to go for. So other options you've got on here, so also you've got the skates, you've also got one around the sensor as well to kind of balance things out. You've also got a button on the side there, so that is to turn the device off. So when you're charging, you can turn it into the off mode, so it'll charge quicker, or you can use it when it's in the wired mode. Move it up one, and then it goes into the middle, so that is in the normal RGB mode. But if you want to save battery and get up to 50 hours out of it, you can put it into eco mode, which is at the top. So that essentially kind of dims everything down and the lights rarely come on at all. That is configurable actually in the software as well, so you don't necessarily have to do it from hardware, you can do it from the software. On the other side, there is a LED button, so you can go through and change the LEDs. Again, because I've not got this plugged in, you won't see it, but we'll probably see it for some B-roll a little bit later on. But you get the general idea. You've got the RGB from the back there as well. 6 different modes built in with that button, or again, you can use the software. At the front, USB Type-C connection, and they've not done anything weird on here, molded it or anything. So basically any USB Type-C cable will do. So if you've got a particular cable you like to use on your desktop, use that one for charging the mouse, or you can use it all the time, just use it in wired mode. It's absolutely fine. Talking of wired mode or wireless mode, let's take a look at the software and we'll look at the differences and things you can do in there to basically make this perfect for you. Okay, so let's take a look at the Tecware Pulse Elite software. So this is for the wireless gaming mouse. Now I should say, first of all, actually, depending on how you're using your mouse, if you're using it wired, it uses a different set of settings than it does when it's actually wireless. So when it's wired, you'll see a charging icon here, rather than being the battery percentage, and the settings in terms of your RGB lighting, etc. will be different. So if you make a change in one, you may need to make a change in the other, or perhaps you do want to have 2 separate settings, so full illumination whilst you're connected via wire, and more power saving when you're on wireless. When it comes to the key settings, those are the same across the board, so regardless. And when you're doing that, there are a choice of 4 profiles which you can set up, and you can choose what happens to the left button, right button, middle button, forward, back, and the DPI button. So that's quite nice that you can change the DPI button to a whole host of other things, such as turning your RGB on and off, or change your polling rate, profile switch, those kinds of things. So you can make changes there should you wish to. So that's kind of nice. You've also got the option for adjusting your debounce setting down to a minimum of 0 milliseconds. And yeah, you can basically put that to whatever you want. The default is 4. You also got the option to restore the defaults. You've also got the option to either export or import a profile. So if you want to save a profile, then move the software to another PC or laptop, and you want to take your profile with you, If for some reason you think it might not be stored on the mouse, then you can save it to a USB stick or something should you wish to. So that is the main page. Also, you've got the settings, obviously minimize, maximize, etc. Next one is going to be the DPI settings. So you've got some sections here for DPI. There's a total of 6 DPI settings which you can set. If you want to limit that or reduce it, you can do to any one of those. So if you just want to have a single one, you can do, so it doesn't change. You can have 3 if you switch between, or 6. So it's quite nice you've got the flexibility to do whichever you want there. At the bottom, for the DPI effect, for the actual illumination on the mouse itself, you've got options to change the brightness and also what it does, whether it's breathing or off. So if you don't want any DPI notifications on the mouse whilst it's in use, then you can turn those off, which is quite a nice feature. Also, you've got adjustments for your lift-off distance. So the default is 1mm. You can set that to slightly higher at 2mm should you wish to. And also you've got the options for ripple control and also angle snapping, which is part of the PixArt sensor. So if you want to, you can enable those. Those will have an impact on battery life. So if you want to have a longer battery life, then get rid of those, but then it will be slightly less accurate and won't have so much of that smoothing effect. Also, you've got the options here for the mouse's polling rate. So again, that is going to be helpful if you want to reduce battery power, if you're using it on a laptop or something. So you can choose between those. The default is 1000 Hertz. Also, you've got a quick shortcut here. So if you want to open up other settings to the mouse, so if you want to change your mouse from left-handed to right-handed, switch buttons, you can click on there and it opens up the Microsoft mouse properties. Moving on to the next one, so this is the option for macros, so you can start recording macros, save macros, etc. You can insert extra events, so if you want to do any of those, you can do for the macro settings. And finally, we've got our lighting section. So this, again, depending on which mode you're in, whether you're in wireless, like we are now, running on battery power, or when you're plugged in, when it's on the cord, these will set their settings independently. So you can have 2 lots of settings depending on what you're doing. When it comes to the lighting, you've got a few options built in. So you've got the steady, so single color, whichever one of the colors you choose, or from the color wheel. You've also got the breathing option. Again, you can choose whichever color you want to. Streaming, which is the kind of unicorn puke. Neon, pretty much more of the same, just color changing. And also your single color flow. So this is kind of like the Knight Rider effect, for those of you old enough to remember Knight Rider. So if you want to set that to red and pretend your mouse is Kit, then you certainly can do. Also, you've got colorful breathing, which is just flashing through red, blue, green, the RGB colors, that kind of thing. And of course, if you want to, you can just turn it off in its entirety. I'm going to leave mine on streaming, which is the rainbow puke. You've also got options for brightness. So if you're on battery, you probably want to reduce that to preserve some of your battery life. And also you can adjust the speed so it ties in more closely to some of your RGB devices possibly. You also got an option here, which is something which they've added, which is the turn off the light when moving. Now this previously was enabled by default. You can turn this on or off. So essentially you don't really want your mouse lit up when you're moving the mouse because you can't really see it because your palm's over it or your grip's over it. So that is another option to squeeze a little bit more power out of that 400 milliamp hour battery. You've also got the sleep time. So the mouse itself will go to sleep to save power, and you can choose between 10 seconds or up to 40 minutes for the sleep time. In order to wake the mouse, you do need to click a mouse button to wake it back up. So do bear that in mind. So you might want to set it to something a little bit more substantial, like 5 minutes or something. 1 minute will probably be between map loading times, so it might be a little bit annoying to have to click a mouse button to wake it back up. So that is pretty much it for the software. Let's go back to the review. So there you go, the software is pretty cool. Lots of options there to tweak and transform this to basically suit your individual needs. Now let's take a listen to what the switches are like. So obviously with this, you can put in whatever switches you want. So this section is kind of irrelevant, but we'll go for the stock switches. So first of all, you'll be hearing the blue switches, or the Huano switches, or I'm not sure how you pronounce it, I think it's Huano. You'll be hearing those, so let's take a listen to those. And of course now in this we've got the KEL switches, the KM8s, which I actually do prefer. These are up to 80 million key presses, so nice switches, and they sound like this. Obviously the other buttons such as the wheel and the side buttons are going to sound exactly the same because they're still going to be the standard switch, but it's really nice that you can actually change the switches, so you can go for a silent switch if you want to, a noisy switch, one with very little resistance, or you can go one with high resistance depending on what your needs are for you and your particular gaming style, or for video editing, or whatever it is, just for using Windows on your PC. Or you can use this with Macintosh. The software only works in Windows, but you can still use the mouse obviously in other things such as Android devices, Mac OS, Linux, all those kinds of things should you want to. So the last bit of this is going to come down to price. Now, when it comes to price, this actually isn't on the market at the time that I'm actually recording this video. There is somewhat of an embargo, so this, I believe, is going to be due out the 1st of May 2024. So depending, again, when you're watching this, prices may have changed very slightly. The estimated street price of this is somewhere between £60 and £70 here in the UK. Again, there will be affiliated links in the video description, so you can check out the very latest pricing where you are. I will also add in other links as well, so if you are outside of the UK or Europe and you want to get the other version, which is either in black or the white, and also with the honeycomb or the solid shell, then I'll put links for those as well, so you can check them out for yourselves. Essentially, they're all going to be very similar. The only thing different, obviously, is the actual packaging, the sensors, the technology behind it is all going to be absolutely identical. So overall, what do I think about this? I think it's actually a very cool mouse. I like it a lot. The only thing I would have liked to have seen, if at all possible, would have been some kind of charging dock or cradle. I think that these days is a really nice addition. It's not the end of the world to have to plug in a cable to charge, and being that the battery life is up to about 50 hours, for most people that's going to be a good 3 to 4 days of use, I think, constantly. So yeah, having to plug in a cable isn't the end of the world, but yeah, a nice docking station would be a very nice addition. But overall, yeah, it's very nice. Very smooth, very slick, and if you need accuracy for things like video editing, for artwork, or just for gaming, then I think this is definitely worth a shout. And for the price, it does beat a lot of the other competition on the market with similar specifications, although this has the unique selling point of having removable hot swap switches and also removable hot swap shells. So let me know what you think about this one in the comments section below. Thanks once again to Techware for sending this out to us free of charge for review purposes. Much appreciated. If you've got any comments or questions, you know what to do. Stick them in that comments section below. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. And hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.